What we found is one of the best ways for us to start to build those relationships, people, was actually doing spotlight series, best of series, really kind of whatever you want to call it. We're interviewing all of the best people in the area. So all of the best orthopedic surgeons, all the best gyms, all the best whoever. We've had such good actual feedback from anybody that you've worked with or your reviews. This will allow us to be able to say, hey, you're awesome. I want to know more about you. Can we spotlight you in front of everybody so we can bring more awareness to the public of all the different options that are out there? Hey, how's it going? It's Joey from Rehab CEOs. So today what I'm going to do is actually walk you through how to get more referrals from doctors, from other businesses, so that way you don't have to worry about if a new big up-and-comer is coming in or the hospital systems are coming in or anything like that, or maybe we don't even want it to be talking about doctors. So there's a lot of you that want to start to build referral relationships, but you don't really know how, or realistically, it just takes time. And so what we found is one of the best ways for us to start to build those relationships, people, was actually doing spotlight series, best of series, really kind of whatever you want to call it. All we're really doing is saying, hey, so-and-so, we're interviewing all of the best people in the area. So all of the best orthopedic surgeons, all the best gyms, all the best whoever. We're saying we're interviewing all of the best. We're not saying you are the best. We're interviewing all of the best. And we've had such good actual feedback from anybody that you've worked with or your reviews or whatever you kind of want to spin for how you know those. Because if they haven't referred to you, you maybe haven't had actual feedback from their patients, but they maybe have a good social presence or you resonate with something that is their thing that they're about. This will allow us to be able to say, hey, you're awesome. I want to know more about you. Can we spotlight you in front of everybody so we can bring more awareness to the public of all the different options that are out there? This will allow us to then be able to get in front of people that we no longer really normally would have been able to. Because you go to a physician, you don't actually talk to them. You go to them to try to do lunches, they don't even show up. You spend a lot of money, you're talking to their staff who don't even care. So lunches don't work anymore. The traditional ways do not work anymore. And if you're smaller, you really don't have much you can actually provide value-wise to someone that's bigger. Because if you're super big, then it's like, okay, well, we've got an 8-week wait list. Please don't send us anybody else. Or you're small and maybe you can only refer maybe a couple people to them every month. And so since you don't have that, you kind of have to play on the one thing that you actually can do. And that's increasing their status. Because almost everything in life, business, everything like that, especially men in general, men are typically more status driven. Women are typically more security driven. So most people care about status. If we didn't, we wouldn't be wearing stuff like even Nike. Nike is a normal shirt. It just has a Nike swoosh on it. People wouldn't care about Yeezys. They wouldn't care about any of this stuff if there wasn't some type of status. And the way to actually associate that and figure out, do we actually only care about status is, would you buy a watch for $50,000 to wear it in the basement where no one could ever actually see you? And if the answer is no, they're probably buying it for some level of status. And so status is one of the things that almost every single person will be able to apply to. And so since we know that, well, that's what we can actually try to elevate by interviewing them as being one of the best. And so all you're going to do is reach out to them. You're going to do anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes. You can get away with essentially longer. The less you know them, the longer it can, if you've known them very little, you're going to maybe keep it to 10 minutes, or if they've never referred you, or if they're a physician or something that's super, super busy. If it's a gym owner or a nutrition company, or maybe you have an existing relationship, you can actually get this to a 30, 45 minute interview and actually create really good content with this. So you kind of have to know how busy they are, how much do you know them and stuff like that. And you may tell them it's 10 minutes and then they're actually enjoying it and you get a full 30 minutes of time with them. But the reason this is so powerful is there's almost no other way we can actually get in the room with a decision maker without having to shell out all kinds of money for lunches or swag or doing all these things, because realistically, they've probably been approached by 100 other people and they really know the true intentions is, hey, I need some patients. And so this is our way to get our foot in the door with someone who normally wouldn't be able to. I've had people be with very, very high level physicians, surgeons, all kinds of people to be able to do these interviews. I had someone last week, we told them about this. They have 4 physicians on the schedule for them to actually interview. So like it is something you can do. So don't think that this is like, oh, like I don't have an audience, I don't have this, I can't do this. This is the easiest way to do this, because ultimately, like, the content we do not care about. If it happens to be good content on the back end, awesome. If not, this is just an easy way for us to talk to someone for 10 to 30 minutes, make them realize that we're actually a person, we're educated, we're a little bit different than other people, we actually care about the public being educated on other things. You then highlight what is it that makes them different, who's the ideal candidate for them, and essentially what does it actually look like to work with them. As long as you ask those 3 things, you're probably going to get everything you need, and most people are going to be able to talk. So if you're worried like how am I going to make it long enough, those 3 will pretty much get what you want. The reason a lot of physicians will also be open to this is if, like, maybe I've got a surgeon who's like the main knee guy in your area. Well, not all knee surgeries are, 1, as fun as each other, but 2, not all knee surgeries pay the same. So you may be like, hey, like if I was to stack nothing but 1 surgery on your schedule all day, what would you want it to be? Because maybe it's like the funnest for you, or I mean, maybe it reimburses the most. By you saying what reimburses the most, now you're talking the actual language that most of them actually want to talk. It's like, oh, well, this specific one, it actually reimburses the most. If I didn't have to see any of those or have any of that specific payer or whatever that is, I would love to have those. It's like, cool, so let's highlight you as that. Because then you may not be able to do anything if they have a wait list, but if we can change, it's just like us trying to change payer mix and stuff like that. We can either help with payer mix or just essentially what the actual payment structure is of the surgeries that they're doing. Or maybe they're getting older and they don't want to do some of the other surgeries because they're a little bit harder. Or if we're talking about dentists, maybe they want to be highlighted as the one that actually is the implant guy, the TMD person, the one that actually has something to do with braces. Maybe if you're going to like a gym, they want to be known as the powerlifting gym. They want to be the Olympic lifting gym. They want to be the weight loss gym. So there's all of these specific things that we can highlight them as. The beauty of us saying is we're interviewing the best of is by them saying no, they then have to by default either say no and then know that someone else is also going to be interviewed as the best, because you have to have the best. And so it makes there be a little bit applied pressure for them to want to actually do it. And so that's why this is so powerful, because you get the status raise, you get into a room that normally you can't get into, and then you at that point have a little bit of built-in actual true scarcity of like, hey, we're going to be interviewing other people. And so the next thing that you're probably thinking is like, well, Joey, I don't have an audience. Why would they even want to be interviewed? And you're not wrong. That's a common thought process that someone has, but there's always a way to frame these things. So if we're looking at all this and it's like, well, I don't have an audience, but I actually wanted to make sure that you were the very first person that we went to, because I think that you would be the best one for us to highlight first. So you then, again, are kind of going towards status, ego, stuff like that. It's like, hey, we had 500 other options. I wanted you to be number 1. But then once you're bigger, it's like, hey, like you don't really have to have that. And it's like, oh, you may not have that. It's like, well, we've already interviewed 200 other people, but like I figured you'd want to actually be one of these because we haven't really spotlighted someone in your area. So there's always a way to spin this to where it's a benefit. If you don't have an audience, you don't have anybody, you've never interviewed, but it's like, cool, that's actually a perk. And if they have another objection, it's going to be like, well, what's the catch? Because most of y'all have probably been actually someone's come to you and they're like, we're with the radio, they're working with the TV station, the news, or something like that. And they're like, hey, we want to do this spotlight series and interviewing all that. You get excited, they do the interview, they do all this type stuff, and they're like, and for us to put this in front of our audience, it's going to be $1,000. Like that's a normal pitch of actually doing PR and doing some of this type stuff. And so you kind of have to hit the actual like elephant in the room of like, hey, like, and I'm sure you're probably thinking like, what's the catch? Like, cause I know a lot of times they're going to be charging you on the back end. That's not what we're about. Like we just want to get to know y'all more, but 2, we just want to bring more awareness for people to actually know that there's options for them to get help with XYZ, get help with this, get help with that. So that way people can make the best decision. And even for yourself, like I'm sure y'all probably get tired of answering the same 10 questions every single time someone comes in. So this will allow you to be able to be spotlighted, tell them a little bit more of like what to expect, all the questions that they normally ask. You can either send this to them before they come in. You can then essentially just have this publicly so more people come in that are just warmer leads. it's going to make your life a lot easier for someone to be able to kind of see those things versus you trying to have to cram that into a very, very short session. And if you want to get this to where it's like ninja level, it's like, hey, how do we build this? And because again, if you're small, it's like refer to them. Like that's pretty much all you can do. But if you can't refer because you're maybe small enough, or maybe there's just not always an applicable time for you to refer to a surgeon, because hopefully you're getting your patients better, which of course I know there's going to be some of them that actually will be a good fit for surgery that you couldn't get better because they have other conditions that maybe you are unaware of. What we can then do, and this is like literally like this is lunches on steroids. You do the interviews, of course, you just throw them up on YouTube. We don't need to like make this into a full-blown podcast, like lowest friction possible, throw it on YouTube, that's it. You're going to then create an email saying, hey, we just did the interview. I want to essentially write this out for you so that way you can share it with your audience. So you say, hey, your interview's live. Here's an email that we've already written. Here's some social media posts that we've already done. If you want to share this to your audience and show them that you were spotlighted as the best in the area, here's everything that you would need. So then they share it. They're going to see you next to the person that's being interviewed, and you are going to start to get some of the know, like, and trust factor from this doctor because you are interviewing them. That's essentially one of the biggest things with branding and everything kind of across the board. That's why like you've got these guys like The Rock, you've got these guys who can come in, they already have a name, they throw a product in there, and it's now a $1 billion company. So we are essentially trying to mimic the same thing. Hey, there's positive attributes to being associated with Dr. So-and-so. I want to be associated with that. So then logically, if we have some type of surgery, well, what do they need after surgery? They need physical therapy. And it's very logical for them if they saw you on the front end to then actually become a patient of yours because you are the person they already know, like, and trust because you already have the warm trust of doing the interview with that doctor. And so that can only get you, that can get you referrals, that can get you the branding and recognition. If you do your stuff SEO wise on the YouTube side of things, you can actually potentially pull some of the traffic from any searches that are going for that person. And if that's not enough, and I start here, don't do anything more. But once you get used to this, it's like, cool, how do we up it up again? Do $1 a day budget on Facebook and Instagram. You're going to put a geofence target, so like a 1 mile radius on top of that business. What that's going to do is you're going to do an ad promoting that so-and-so is interviewed as the best, push them back to your website where you have the YouTube embedded on your website. That's then going to be pulling traffic to your website, which helps with SEO. That is then also going to be getting people constantly seeing this. So when they go into this doctor's office, they're like, I just saw an ad with you being actually one of the best of. Congratulations. It's always going to be hard, especially as you get busier until you get out of treatment, to go build relationships with any other business. Because that's the normal ebbs and flow that you get. It's like, hey, we're not busy enough. I'm going to go market my face off. Now I'm too busy and I don't have time to market. And then 6 to 8 weeks later, everybody drops off and we wonder why. Well, how do we continue to make our rounds to all these physicians? Well, we run an ad. So that way we stay top of mind because all of these patients are actually selling them like, hey, just saw this. Hey, just saw this. Just saw this. So they're a little local celebrity, but they always remember, well, why am I a local celebrity? Well, it's because you're running ads. You did the interview. You helped them elevate their status. And for $1 a day, even 50 cents a day, like it doesn't have to be crazy. $1 a day, so $30 a month, which is significantly cheaper than a lunch that a lot of you have tried to do, you're going to stay top of mind daily. Because especially since it's about them, the algorithm's going to know it's about him or her, and it's going to be constantly, every time they pull up there, their staff's going to see it, they're going to see it. The other doctors that are actually there with them are going to get jealous and be like, how do I get interviewed? And then you'll actually have people starting to reach out to you because it starts to be such a cool thing to be a part of it. And that's why you have like the best of awards, you have the expertise, you have all those things. They become a thing only because of status. And so that's what we need to start doing because that is the fastest way. Literally, you know nothing about it. If Robbie and I said, hey, let's open up a clinic today, that is the number one thing I would be doing right now to fastly get referrals, get consistent referrals to continue to grow my clinic. So hopefully this was helpful. If y'all have any other questions on it, ask below. If you found that this training was something that maybe you want more of or some more options on marketing and filling your practice, just comment below, fill your practice, and I can send you some more trainings on this, or maybe you can potentially actually hop into our fill your practice workshop That's going to be on May 7th. So I can give you more information there. Just fill your practice and I can kind of walk you through there. And I'll see you on the next one.